Hello, and welcome to the Lighten Up Podcast with Lauren Polly, your invitation for living on the lighter side of life. Welcome to today's episode, which is 256 in the overall podcast lifespan. But today we are going to be digging into our final installment in the Resiliency Roadmap conversation. So it is number 7. If you haven't checked out the previous episodes, go back and listen to those. We're really looking at building a strong foundation, one where you have yourself, your message, your voice, being able to really know who you are and what you want. So then you're able to step out into the world in a business way. We are really focusing this conversation on entrepreneurs, and more specifically, entrepreneurs who are heart-based, purpose-driven, people who really are looking at maybe not being in a service industry business, but serving the world to a greater possibility through their messaging. You may have a personal brand where you are the face of it. You may be using your story like I do to be able to connect to people and invite a different possibility. There's many, many different ways to look at this conversation. I would say also, if you're in a creative-based business too, a lot of our creativity, though it's not service-based, comes from our heart. And to be able to have a business that is so involved in you and how you feel and how you see the world, we get rocked differently. We get in different kind of stressors, I think, than people in more of a technical business would be. There's a little bit more of a personal investment. And I feel like just with the risks of entrepreneurship, having this other component to it just brings up different stuff. So today we are building on our last conversation in this Resiliency Roadmap series. This goes with my brand new ebook, which is out and about, free to download. I'll put the link down below. And today I've chosen to combine the last 2 chapters into this one episode and really just focusing on one powerful, powerful question that I was asked a couple years ago that really set my viewpoint on business and entrepreneurship, quite frankly, my life in general, on a totally different direction, and really allowed me to start piecing this together of how I would like my foundation to be. So before we dive into that, one important note about entrepreneurship, and really the reason that I'm kind of branching out into this different direction. I've always spoken to entrepreneurs. If I looked at my list that I've been building over the last, 11 years in my business, the majority of them are heart-based, purpose-based people who are looking to be creative in the world. And I ran across an article which was fascinating. It was a study that was done at the University of California in Berkeley, stating that entrepreneurship has an epidemic of depression. That 74%, I believe, of entrepreneurs report ongoing mental health challenges. And more than that, like a huge bucket of them, about a quarter of people actually report chronic mental health issues. So it's fascinating to me that this one subset of people who never really look at that, they look at the nuts and bolts and how to build a business, how to build a list, putting the container together, all important skill sets that we need. I've been on that same path the last decade, but a lot of people aren't having this conversation of how do you do all of that whilst also taking care of yourself. And whether you want to term this mental health, self-care, wellness, well-being, it doesn't really matter. It's all the same thing. It's just important to take care of yourself as you take care of your business, as you take care of your family and your work-life balance. All of this comes into play. There's a lot on your plate right now, and I get it. There's a lot on mine too. So how do we build this foundation where really we have that backbone and that resiliency to be able to handle it all? And that's what this roadmap series is all about. And stay tuned because I've got a whole bunch of future offerings I'm going to be offering to this group as well. So what is this powerful, powerful question I was asked? A couple of years ago, I took part in a class that was about desire. And it wasn't like how I think a lot of people think desire is, of kind of being more of a sexual thing. It's not. It's just this desire as a motivation and how you would like your life to be. And for me, it was kind of an interesting class title because I was like, I feel like I'm driven by that naturally. Like I know there are things that I want. I know there's a direction I'm going. but there seems to be some missing pieces, right? So this one question popped during class, which is, how would you like to spend your time on Earth? And I'm just going to let that sink in for a second. Hopefully you're having a similar experience that I did, which was just this opening and this rush of, I know, and yet I don't at the same time. How would you like to spend your time on Earth? And it's a big question because it's asking you to really look macro at the entirety of your lifespan, which I always like to talk about as a patchwork quilt, right? All these different experiences and skill sets and different energies that we play with, really at the end, patchworking itself together in a unique way, kind of like a memory quilt would be back in the day, right? All these different pieces of someone's lives. And then if you look at it, it's kind of the entirety of it. So if you look at life that way, of actually patching in all of these different experiences that we get to choose, what would you like that to be? And for me, this conversation opened up such a door, not just with business and creativity, but really looking at the entirety of my life. It changed a whole bunch in relationships and day to day. And then this whole entrepreneurial side came in. If I could actually craft the kind of business that I wanted, if I could show up the way that I wanted, if I could craft my message and also the container in the way that I deliver it to people and interact with them, what would I like that to be? And here's the weird, really, really weird thing is a lot of times what draws us into entrepreneurship is the promise of freedom, autonomy, individuality, creativity, no cap on money, freedom, all of these things I'm sure you can relate to. And at the same time, how are we taught to do it? Hustle culture, playing with the algorithms, having these kind of very specific ways that you should show up and serve, the ways to build your email list, the ways to actually show up and get new clients. And for me, it was such this weird dichotomy because there was this open promise of what you could be if you stepped into entrepreneurship. And at the same time, there were these very slotted systems that I was supposed to put into my life to make it work. And to have freedom and openness with this structure, yes, it's needed, but I feel like sometimes it throws us down the rabbit hole because we're spending so much time trying to take that promise of freedom and slot it in to something that should work or could work or have worked for other people. So you may have seen me over the years of really kind of throwing some spaghetti at the wall and trying a bunch of different stuff. Part of it is I'm an experimenter. I think most entrepreneurs are, and always pushing that creative edge. The one thing that has never wavered with me is my message, my story, what I stand for, and the direction that I'm going. And I feel like so many people already have that. So when I ask this question of how would you like your life to be, in coaching sessions, for example, I start here and people, they know the feeling, they know the purpose. A lot of times they have that idea, they have that sensation, they know what they want to offer. It's just then how do we take that and along the way of building it and learning these skill sets and trying different containers and list building and practicality stuff, how do we not lose sight of that which started us on this journey to begin with? And that's where these two conversations come in, being an individuality, having individuality and authenticity in your business, and also having a life beyond success, one that is full of purpose and meaning and my favorite word, fulfillment, because let's face it, not all success is fulfilling. So we need to look at that. Those are two very different conversations to have and to look at how we put that whole together. So that at the end of the journey, we look back at our patchwork quilt and we're like, damn, I have so many different textures and varieties and colors. And oh, remember that. Oh, remember that thing that I offered. And at the end, our journey is way more colorful and delightful. But it's because we allowed ourselves to have that experimentation, have the structure as needed, but also really constantly pulling ourselves back to what that initial pulse was to get us to open to this possibility. And I understand this conversation is very different than the ones we've had on the past episodes to go with this ebook. Those are a little bit more perspective changing and nuts and bolts, so to speak, a little more practical. But I wanted to end here because we need to constantly come back to this bigger promise and look at how do we put that all together. If you already know how you would like to spend your time on earth, even if it is esoteric, abstract, like it is for me sometimes out in the clouds, how do you hold to that whilst actually doing the day in and the day out? One massive key that I have learned with this is to actually apply that same question to your day and day. So it isn't a how would you like to spend your time on earth macro conversation where I'm like, oh, okay, cool. This is the big picture, because then I'm kind of lost. I don't know how to get there. Or I'm choosing day-to-day activities that make me super cranky on the way forward, which never feels good. So we take that same question and we apply it to our day-to-day living too. And this is what gets a lot of entrepreneurs is they think to get to that bigger promise, they have to actually put their nose to the grindstone and go through some really cranky experiences in order to get there. Well, what if it didn't have to be like that? And I'm going to rock the boat here a little bit. I mean, we're going against all the norms with the hustle culture and make sure that you do everything and all the things. But what if you could actually craft that? Where if you actually started to look at the day-to-day aspects that you're taking with your business, how you're engaging with people, how many times you post on social media, the way you're building your list, whatever it is, what if you actually started making changes in that micro viewpoint as well? So that it wasn't just about the quilt coming together at the end of the road once you reach whatever success, quote unquote, you're looking for. But what if it was more about having those energies and experiences day in and day out to make up that thing? And this is where it gets super interesting. If you're willing to audit your life, looking bigger picture and getting clear on that, but then now coming into presence, groundedness, connection, and really looking at how you put that together in the now and how you build towards that vision by actually choosing the energies and the day-to-day things that support that in the now. Yes, there are going to be things that you don't want to do that you have to do because you're on this path. But it doesn't mean that you have to do it in a way that is counterintuitive to what you're building. And that to me has been the biggest lesson. And it's as simple as meeting with someone that I'm thinking of hiring and having a feeling in my gut or feeling a little bit crunchy or shrunken, and to say, you know, on paper, they look perfect. But in my body, how I feel, they are absolutely not. So I'm going to say no. It's looking at social media and being like, you know, I'm expected to do this just to make this algorithm work for me. But, you know, that doesn't feel good in my body. So maybe there's a different way I can work this. I'm going to say no to the expectation of doing that. Maybe you've been on a life path and you've been building your business and are quite successful. A lot of people I've worked with have been that, you know, like multiple six-figure business. And it worked for them way back when, but it doesn't work for them now. The way they're servicing their clients and how they're getting it, they don't feel aligned with anymore. This is a different conversation of actually going, I know I'm building towards that thing and I'm super successful. I'm on that path, but my day-to-day doesn't feel like that. Well, if I'm asking the question, how would I like to spend my time on earth? Then this is not it. So I need to make some changes. Truth is, these conversations that we've had in this Resiliency Roadmap series are not linear, they are circular. And as we move through the cycles of our life and the cycles of our business and our creative evolution, all of the things, we will continue to have to circle back to rebuild this foundation. It is not a solid structure. For me, it's more of a dance of skill sets, of a platform that we're building, just something where we have to constantly revisit to make sure that we're nourishing our bank and having solid feet to stand on. And so I invite you, as you're looking at this question, really looking at all of the aspects on a micro or macro level. How big can I get with that? How do I want to spend my life? What do I want my quilt to look like when I look back at it? Okay. And then how is my day-to-day feeling? Are the two of those aligned? And if not, probably time to make some changes. If this becomes one of your go-to questions, like it has for me, my hunch is that you're going to be on this path of having individuality in your business. Because if you're including you and what you want your life to feel like and look like and be like, you're going to have more of that authenticity that draws people to you. And it's going to build that second half of this conversation, how my ebook ends, which is a life beyond success. It's one full of meaning and fulfillment. If you're not going back to this question day in and day out and aligning yourself with it, it's going to be very hard to be fulfilled. You're going to be like those other people I've worked with who are quite successful, but feel like something's missing. Well, sometimes that's something that's missing is you. And so having this question to come back to time and time again is going to be hopefully something that builds a sense of yourself and allows you to put yourself in the equation so that you're not just servicing others, looking towards the market trends, doing what you're supposed to do because some expert said, but because you're actually reflecting back and including what you want along the way. That is my greatest hope for all of us, including myself. I am so touched that you all have listened to this series. You've downloaded the ebook. You've been in this conversation. Like I said, there is more coming. I'll be having some workshops that dive deeper into this and an upcoming membership program, which I'm very excited about. Really wanting to build community around those of us who want to build that solid foundation and to take care of ourselves just as much as we want to take care of our business. If you're interested in staying in touch, please make sure you sign up for my email list, Lauren at laurenpoly.com. And then making sure too that you download that ebook, and that will get you connected in all the right ways as well. And so there's more to come. Start here, start with that question we played with today. How would you like to spend your time on earth? Let it sink in, let it roll through your world like it did mine, and see what changes, see what shifts. And I hope and I trust that this will build a greater sense of yourself and a more authentic voice that you can have in the world. I will chat with you soon on to more and different conversations in the future. Have a good one.